They say revenge often starts as a small seed, a moment of irritation that quietly takes root. You think you can ignore it, that it will fade away, but sometimes that seed grows into something darker, something you can't take back. My story begins with something as ridiculous as a bottle of shampoo, and ends with a secret I've been carrying for over 15 years. I know we all have those moments, the ones where little annoyances slowly build until they boil over into something we wish we could undo. Usually it's something minor, a misplaced phone charger, someone eating your last slice of pizza, or a sibling borrowing your clothes without asking. But sometimes those annoyances fester into something more, something that makes it dangerously easy to imagine getting back at them, even if it means crossing a line. For me, it was my brother and his relentless theft of my high-end shampoo. I know, it sounds petty, but you have to understand. At the time, I was 15, fresh from getting my first job, finally able to spoil myself. I bought the clothes I wanted, new shoes, and, for the first time in my life, salon-grade beauty products. It felt like a small victory, finally affording the things I once thought were out of reach. And then came my brother, the kind of person who thought nothing of using other people's things. He didn't ask, he didn't care. My expensive shampoo, the one thing I was genuinely proud of, kept disappearing. I'd come home after a long day, ready for a relaxing shower, only to find an empty bottle sitting in its place. My frustration grew with each theft. I complained to my parents, but they just told me to share. They didn't get it. That's when the idea of revenge started creeping in. At first, I thought about hiding the shampoo, but that felt too easy. I wanted something that would make him regret touching my stuff. Then it hit me. Hair removal cream. I'd never used it before, but I'd seen it in stores. It seemed harmless enough, no real danger, just temporary baldness. One afternoon, when he wasn't home, I bought a small bottle, mixed it into my shampoo, and made sure it looked, smelled, and felt the same. For good measure, I even warned him not to touch it. Of course, he ignored me. A few days later, I noticed it before he did. His hair was thinning. At first, just barely. Then came the bald patches. Watching him brush his hair in the mirror, oblivious to what was happening, I felt a wave of regret I hadn't expected. This wasn't as funny as I thought it would be. My prank had crossed a line. Eventually, our mom took him to the doctor. The diagnosis? Alopecia, a condition where hair falls out in small patches. Hearing it spoken aloud hit me like a brick. I kept my mouth shut, terrified of admitting the truth. He was given a special medicated shampoo with a horrible smell, but used it religiously, convinced it was the only thing keeping his hair from falling out completely. I thought the hair loss would be temporary. It was. But the diagnosis stuck. For over 15 years, my brother has continued using that special shampoo, talking about his condition as though it were just another part of his life. And every time he mentions it, I feel the same crushing guilt. I've thought about telling him the truth, about how it wasn't an autoimmune condition, but a petty act of teenage revenge. But I never have. It's been too long. And every time I see him, I remember that one stupid decision that changed the way he's seen himself for more than half his life. Closing with lingering tension. Some secrets are heavy because of what they hide. Mine is heavy because of what it changed. And the worst part? He still has no idea. Some encounters from our past never really fade. They just lurk in the shadows of our memory, waiting for the right moment to send a chill down our spine. This is one of those encounters. I'm a woman, nearly 30 now, but this story begins when I was only 16. Back then, I spent countless hours on Tiny Chat, mostly hanging out in a chat room dedicated to AMWF relationships. That's Asian man, white female. I was a regular there, and, being who I was, I got plenty of attention. I enjoyed it. One of the people I met was a 26-year-old man. At the time, I truly believed he was my friend, not some creep. We'd Skype occasionally, and he would share some bizarre personal stories. One time, he told me he had paid a struggling single mother a few $100s to perform an enema on camera for him. According to him, she took the money, blocked him instantly, and he was upset because he thought he was just helping her out. I brushed it off, thinking it was just a weird, dark joke. About a month later, during an evening of underage drinking, I was Skyping with him and casually complaining about being broke. That's when his tone shifted. He made me a proposition I will never forget. He offered me $120 to stick baby carrots in my butt on camera. I immediately declined, but he countered, $160 if I did it twice a month. Again, I told him to keep his kink to himself. But he kept trying. That's when I messaged some friends from 4chan in another chat window, telling them about Carrot Guy and asking if anyone wanted to help me mess with him. Eventually, I told him I'd do it and asked when he wanted it. His reply? Right now. I was caught off guard, especially since he was at work in his cubicle. He said he'd go to the parking garage. I went to my kitchen and realized we only had regular carrots, so I started carving them down to baby carrot size, while he watched over Skype, instructing me on how big they should be. He kept insisting on bigger sizes, until they were about 3 times larger than an actual baby carrot. Just as I was finishing, I heard a sound near my bedroom door, and panicked, hanging up. I jumped back into my 4chan chat and told them Project Butt Carrot was a go. One friend immediately called Carrot Guy, pretending to be my furious father. He demanded to know if Carrot Guy realized what he was doing and that it could land him in prison. Carrot Guy sounded terrified, apologizing over and over. Then my dad told him to send $500 to my PayPal, or he'd call the cops. Without hesitation, Carrot Guy paid. That Christmas, I bought gifts for all my friends. I never spoke to him again, and I didn't eat carrots for a long time. Years later, at 22, I moved to the same large city where he lived. One day, I was walking down the street when I saw a face I instantly recognized. My stomach dropped. It was him, the Carrot Guy. I had to do a double take. He didn't recognize me. I'd changed a lot since I was 16. Still, I kept looking over my shoulder the rest of the day. I want to say I have no regrets, but I do. One is that I didn't ask for more money. He had a good job and could have afforded it. The other is that I didn't go straight to the authorities. I sometimes wonder if he ever stopped or if he went on to target other girls my age. Looking back, I realized $500 was nothing compared to the seriousness of what he did. I also understand now that extorting him for money was wrong. But at 16, I thought I was just handling the situation. I didn't want to ruin his life. He'd spent a year painting himself as a lonely, misunderstood person, and I foolishly believed him. If I could go back, I'd call the police immediately. I can't undo my decision, but I can still hope he learned a lesson, and that no other teenager ever had to meet the one and only Carrot Guy. They say revenge is never the answer, but sometimes it feels like the only answer. A few months ago, I, a 38-year-old man, filed for divorce after catching my then-wife, 32, tangled in an emotional affair with another man. I tried to stay civil for the sake of our kids. I really did. But recently, she began dating again. Not just dating, parading it in front of me. And this time, it was with a 21-year-old. She wouldn't stop gushing about him, every little thing he did for her, as if she wanted me to hear it. It wasn't just disrespect. It was like she had zero remorse for what she had done to destroy our marriage. So I thought, fine, if she could ruin something good, maybe I could ruin something for her. It was almost too easy. I made a fake social media profile with pictures of some random pretty girl, sorry to whoever she is, built it up so it looked legit, then added my ex-wife's new boy toy. I played the part well, friendly messages, a little flirty banter. Within 2 weeks, he was openly suggesting we meet for sex. I set a date, a time, and a hotel. No intention of actually meeting him. I just wanted proof. The day came. I parked outside the hotel, camera ready. He showed up, right on time, looking eager and stupid. I got my photos, waited, and watched him pace like a trapped animal. Then came the frantic messages to my fake profile. Where was I? Why was I ghosting him? The insults got creative. Eventually, he left. I saved everything. The messages, the photos, the proof, and sent it all to my ex-wife from the fake account. The explosion was immediate. She cursed me out, swore I was lying, swore her boyfriend would never do that. I laughed so hard I nearly cried. I blocked her and waited. 2 days of silence, unusual for her. Then her Facebook started filling up with cringe posts about how no man is faithful and all I need is my kids. The irony? She still hadn't visited or even texted about them. When she finally showed up, she looked wrecked. And for a second, I almost felt guilty. Almost. She told me some girl had sent proof her boyfriend tried to cheat. She confronted him. He denied it. Until she showed him the screenshots. Then he had nothing left to say. She dumped him instantly and told all his friends and family what happened. Apparently, they're furious with him. Here's the twist I didn't expect. She apologized to me. Said she finally understood the pain she had caused. Admitted she has a serious problem, a need for constant attention from anyone who'd give it to her. She's even talking about seeing a counselor. Was what I did wrong? Sure. Petty? Absolutely. Do I regret it? Only a little, because I used someone else's pictures. But in the process, I exposed a cheater and forced my ex to face something she had ignored for years. Will I get back with her if she changes? Not a chance. The fake profile is gone, the messages deleted, and I'll never do anything like that again. It made me feel dirty, but also free. The funny thing, I started this wanting revenge. Somehow, I ended up giving her a mirror, and she, finally, didn't like what she saw. I don't know if this is the right place to share this, but I can't carry it alone anymore. 2 years ago, my world shattered, and since then, I've been watching the pieces crumble further, powerless to stop it. First, my 15-year-old daughter. She had a fast, aggressive cancer, and she chose not to pursue treatment. 4 months later, she was gone. Watching her fade, my sweet, kind girl broke something in me I don't think will ever fully heal. My husband reacted differently. He drowned himself in alcohol and pills, Xanax, Tramadol, whatever he could get. I slipped into depression, isolating from the world, barely functioning. My son was hurting too, but I couldn't be there for him in the way he needed. Within months, my husband was drinking a $20 bottle of vodka daily, sometimes more. He'd vanish for nights at a time. I tried, half-heartedly, to reach him. My son tried harder, but the spiral was unstoppable. One morning, we found him in our basement bathroom, dead. A toxic mix of alcohol and pills had finally taken him. 4 months after my daughter, my husband was gone too. I wish I could say I woke up after that. In truth, I did, briefly, but the weight of grief dragged me back under. My son, barely holding on himself, slipped further. His grades collapsed. Rejections from almost every college he applied to piled up. He gained over 100 pounds in a year. We lived in the same house, but in separate worlds. Me in my bed, him behind his closed door. Then he tried to end his life. He jumped from a nearby bridge. By some miracle, he survived. Only a broken foot and minor injuries. But I saw the drop. He shouldn't have lived. Since that day, guilt has consumed me. I failed him. I failed my husband too. I shut myself away when they needed me the most. I told myself it was grief, but deep down, I know I abandoned them emotionally. I didn't push my husband to get sober. I didn't pull my son close when I saw him slipping away. Losing my daughter was beyond my control, but losing my husband, almost losing my son, I can't stop thinking that my absence helped make those choices possible. Now, my son barely talks to me. I try to reach out, but maybe it's too late. Maybe he's already made up his mind. I don't know what he'll do when his foot heals, and I'm terrified of finding out. The only difference now is that I'm awake. I'm not that numb, half-alive person I was for the past 2 years. I see everything, the danger, the distance, the damage, and it's eating me alive. I just don't know if awareness alone is enough to save him, or if I've already run out of time. Sometimes, the greatest fears don't lurk in dark alleys or scary legends, but right beside us, in what we call family. Here's my story, which started with a simple childhood letter, but quickly turned into a mystery that haunted me for years. When I was 10, I received a letter in the mail. Just getting mail was exciting. What 10-year-old doesn't love finding something in their mailbox? But when I opened the envelope, I was confused and uneasy. Inside was a drawing I had made at school, a flamingo dancer, which I clearly remembered throwing away because I didn't like how it turned out. At the bottom of the drawing was a single sentence, neatly written, "You're a talented little girl." I was young, naive, and honestly a little flattered. I showed it to my mom, who looked more than just a little concerned. She called my teacher, but the teacher had no idea what she was talking about. That was the first time I saw my mom genuinely unsettled, though she tried to hide it from me. A few weeks later, when I was home alone, something that almost never happened, I noticed the doorknob twisting, like someone was trying to get in. The door didn't budge, only someone with a key could have opened it. Then a letter was slipped under the door. I didn't touch it. When my dad came home, he opened it. It was a note saying someone wanted to gift me a new tennis racket because I was so good at the game. No name, no return address, no signature, just that. At first, my parents thought it was a late birthday message from a friend or coworker, but no one claimed it. Then the letters kept coming, praising me for finishing a book I was reading, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, expressing pride in me. All the notes were vague but oddly personal, always encouraging, and always anonymous. There were about 5 in total over 3 months. On the surface, they seemed kind, but the way they appeared felt off, even to 10-year-old me. Around this time, I got my first cell phone because my parents couldn't always be at my tennis tournaments. That's when the calls started. Sometimes just static, other times heavy breathing, or a low, slow laugh, or a voice repeating "hi" over and over. I blocked the numbers, but they always came back. Different numbers, but the same area code. My parents were alarmed enough to pull me out of tournaments. They hired a guard outside our home and started calling me constantly. If I didn't answer, someone was sent to check on me personally. Then they noticed a small hatchback circling our house every morning around 5 a.m. It was my dad who spotted it, as he was getting ready for work. I have no idea why he didn't note the license plate. That's when they contacted the police. Unfortunately, this was in India, and at the time, anti-stalking laws were almost non-existent. Nothing came of the report. My brother and I were put on high alert. A second full-time guard was hired, cameras installed, and my dad spoke to neighbors to keep watch. When our landlines started receiving similar calls, more static, more breathing, my dad answered one day and calmly asked the caller to stop. The man let out a high-pitched screech before hanging up. That was it. My dad decided to end it. He sent the letters for fingerprint analysis at a private lab. They found several prints on the paper. My dad, who oversaw police administration in our city, quietly ran them through the system. The prints matched someone we knew, not a stranger, not a coworker, not a neighbor. They belonged to my aunt's husband, my mother's sister's husband. They had been married years before in a traditional arranged marriage. He was a diagnosed schizophrenic, something I only learned after I turned 18. Back then, mental illness in India was whispered about behind closed doors. His symptoms began after the wedding. Though they had a child, tension was always high. The family felt duped by his parents, who hadn't disclosed his illness. When his behavior became violent, shouting, unpredictable outbursts, hitting, they even considered abandoning him on the street. Horrifying as it sounds, that was the norm in some places. But my mother, who worked with homeless and mentally ill populations, intervened. She got him treatment and medication. Things stabilized. By the time I was born, he was considered fine.
Growing up, I always felt uneasy around him. He smiled too much, not warmly, but with a distant, unfocused grin. It was a side effect of his meds, but as a kid, I felt guilty for being creeped out by someone who'd never hurt me. I told myself I was being unfair, except I wasn't. The year I turned 10, he stopped taking his meds. No one noticed at first, but that's when his obsession with me began. He had access to family photos, knew our address, could ask casual questions without suspicion. Yes, he followed me, rifled through my school trash, drove by our house at dawn, all while telling his wife he was at the gym. I only learned all of this recently. Back then, all I knew was my parents suddenly became extremely strict. I thought it was annoying. I had no idea what they were protecting me from. My aunt told my parents that earlier that year, she had been in my uncle's office and found photos of me pinned inside his closet, mixed with family pictures of my brother and cousin. She didn't think it strange, just a proud uncle, she assumed. Here's the thing. I don't believe he was a predator. I think he was very, very sick and untreated. My father believes it was his twisted way of expressing pride or affection. I don't hate him, and neither do my parents. My aunt now makes sure he never misses his medication. They didn't divorce. He actually retired from his job this past April. My cousin, their daughter, has made peace with everything too. I still see him at family gatherings. He still makes lame dad jokes. People laugh, but I think they're mostly just being polite. Apparently, it's not just me he unsettles. Sometimes I try to take the mental illness into account, but you can't always control how you feel. I share this story because it's creepy, especially when you get some of the details. It's true, there are monsters in this world. Sometimes those monsters are in your own family. But sometimes that monster isn't really a monster. Sometimes they're just someone left untreated for far too long.